All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the special meeting of the Bedford Township Planning Commission to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right.
Thank you. All right, roll call whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. Trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Here.
Commissioner Claudia Brown. Here. Robert Jones,
Here.
Tony Walters,
Here.
Kevin Vallison,
Here.
Mike Stab,
Here.
Shirley Tubbo. 7 commissioners present, quorum.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of the June 3rd, 2024 special meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion. I'll second.
Claudia and then,
Robert Jones.
yep. Any discussion on that? Pretty simple, just one thing. Seeing none, no discussion, roll call on that, please.
Okay. So, Chairman Mike Stab,
Yes.
Commissioners Kevin Vallison,
Yes.
Claudia Brown,
Yes.
Robert Jones,
Here.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Shirley Tubbo, yes. Tony Walters,
Yeah.
7. Motion.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of our May 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll motion. I'll support.
And then. Greenwood? Any discussion on those minutes? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioners, Kevin Vallison,
Yes.
Shirley Tubbo, yes. Chairman Mike Stab,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Jones,
Abstain.
Commissioner Claudia Brown, Trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Yes.
Tony Walters,
Yeah.
7 affirmative. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda will be public comment. This public comment will be only on agenda items only. Open that at 6:04. Seeing no public comment, we will close that at 6:04. All right, next item on the agenda is going to be discussion of new business, introduction of amendments to the solar energy systems ordinance. So you all have the ordinance in your packet. It's the one that was approved by the board. And is the one that is listed on the website. All right, I guess I'll just start us off. This kind of came about because we had I guess what you would call pre-application meeting with consumers. They've been through the ordinance. The attorneys have been through the ordinance, and then obviously we've been through it recently with a review of the zoning ordinance in general. And there were, I guess, 3 items that I would describe as housekeeping issues that were, 2 of them were just a little bit vague in the wording in the ordinance itself. And then there was 1 section that was a little bit redundant as far as that goes. Why don't we go ahead and everybody want to turn to, it's going to be item number 8. Unfortunately, those don't have page numbers on there, so just go to 8. Well, that's going to be in the solar farm section, so towards the back. And I believe 4. Get the page numbers on these things. It's about, yep. It's gonna be number 8, accessory buildings, including battery storage and inverter.
Mhm.
Everybody kind of on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the item in question is gonna be 8A, inverters and battery storage buildings must be set back at least 1,000 feet from the lot line of a non-participating lot and at least 200 feet from the lot line of a participating lot. Given the size of the inverters, which, at the meeting, they kind of described them as like no bigger than a fridge. To make, the setbacks work for this particular project and other projects, obviously, in the future, 1,000 feet is probably a little bit too large of a setback. I don't exactly know what the state requirements are gonna be, obviously, but, they had requested that we, look at possibly changing that, being that was a little bit excessive. I will say, I've looked at a couple of noise studies just online in the last couple of days, and it looks to be about 500 feet is where you stop hearing those.
Okay.
And then obviously we have the 300-foot setback from the lot line of a non-participating parcel anyway,
200
or is it 200?
200.
Is it 200? Okay. So I would think that we would want to discuss changing that from 1,000 feet down to maybe either 700 or 800.
They stop hearing the noise that.
Roughly about 5, it really drops off, below the decimal limit that we have in the ordinance itself at about 500 feet. I am definitely cautious about going any lower than that because obviously this is, a project unique to that size inverter. Who knows what you're gonna get later on, obviously. It could be, a different company with a bigger inverter, as far as that goes. We kind of just had taken that number from, some of the other ordinances that we had looked at, and obviously, this is all still relatively new. So that's one of the reasons why we're coming back to tighten up those things a little bit as far as that goes. Seth, do you have anything that you,
Yeah,
like-
I could said a couple things in here. So
Yep.
for this revision, in the text amendment, I just left a couple of lines blank. Okay, so I wasn't entirely sure, which way we're gonna go here. And I
yeah,
looked
so,
at,
hold on, Seth,
yeah,
sorry. If you guys go, the other document in your packet is gonna look just like the ordinance. It's not gonna have an adopted date on it. And those are the draft of the text amendments that we're gonna be looking at.
and this is in section 3.
Yep, so the very, very first one there.
So when I'm looking at the state preemption legislation in front of me here, for battery storage, an energy storage facility which includes batteries, it does talk about setbacks. From an occupied community building and dwellings, with 300 feet from the nearest point on the outer wall. And then for non-participating parts, it could be 50 feet, and that is where shared property line. So that's what we have in the state side. And then you could put these numbers however you want. I think you said going down to like 700 or 800 feet.
Hmm.
And I think that's fine. But what we did to address this was the second sentence in that amendment. It says the planning commission may, in its discretion, increase or decrease the setbacks upon the finding that such change promotes health, safety, and general welfare of the township. Something we don't want to do is, amend it to certain numbers and then have to come back and potentially consider, another amendment, depending on what the state does. If these numbers in the state side can change, if they're the same, that way it provides some flexibility for the planning commission. That's why we added that last time. So I think you're within the planning commission discretion to figure out what numbers you want to put in there, but just know that there is flexibility regardless of what you put in there.
Okay, so,
I would think 800, go with 800. I want to go too low, because again, this is new, we're not sure.
sure.
I think 800 is number
Oh.
too. And
Trustee Brandon, are you?
I would think.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. And then obviously with the addition of that wording,
Right,
we don't necessarily have to come back and do a text amendment again if, further on down the line when there's another project, if it's an issue,
Right.
obviously, because all parcels are different.
Yep, and then the second part here is at least 50, it says at least blank feet from the lot line of a participating lot. So what a lot of these companies are gonna want is if we have a, you know, if our footprint is this, you know, this square here, and this is made up of a bunch of parcels. So, let me draw it for you real quick. So it's made up of 4 parcels, right? There's gonna be, and these are all participating, they're gonna wanna know what's the setbacks between participating parcels. The developer is gonna want us to waive those, because they're just gonna wanna go straight across. The reason being that shrinks their building envelope, and they're gonna tell you that, that protects these surrounding land uses, if I'm able to pull my project entire.
Right.
Okay, but the same applies. I mean, that same sentence, the last sentence allows the PC to increase or decrease. And by decreasing, I think you could waive the. So if you want to put a number in there to, you know, safeguard, like, you know, with participating parcels, you could certainly do that. Understanding the developer is going to ask you to most likely waive, and that's still within your discretion and authority to do. Okay.
So I would be good with putting 50 feet in there.
That's what is wrong.
Too.
Participating?
In the lot line of a
Participating
non-participating.
at 50 feet. For this,
Yeah, participating is, non-participating.
okay,
But we're talking about the inverter specifically. We're not talking about the general
Oh.
setback,
well, it shouldn't only have to be. There might be more than one.
right? Well, there's gonna be probably
So
4.
non-participating means nobody is living there.
So non-participating would be. This is the project, okay? The Ps, these are all participating. Person who lives here, they're not participating. That's a residential use. So this over here is an active farm. They're not participating.
And so we're reducing it from,
So with these non-participating, as far as your setbacks go now, 800 feet.
oh.
Okay. And then the interior, the participating, like right here, like what's the setback right here? Right now it's 50 feet, but you could waive them if that's what you want, if the applicant comes in and, you know, sometimes it does make sense. If it's a bigger project and, you know, it's in the middle, I mean, it may not matter to you if there's a
Right.
setback or whatever.
So basically what we're talking about, so obviously this is the multiple parcel, most projects are gonna be multiple parcel. So
Mhm.
we, you know, we in the ordinance have, you know, several provisions where they, you know, have to, you know, and we had put those in there to maintain lot line integrity. That's gonna be a very common request that we waive that. So I don't have a problem going down to 50, understanding that we still have you know, they're gonna ask us to probably waive it, cause it's gonna be combined as one project. Doesn't have anything to do with where their project meets another parcel. This is only the participating parcel. It's gonna be their parcels.
But what if the 4 of the 4, only 3 of them are participating and one is slow getting on board? You know what I'm saying? I mean, are they 4 separate parcels owned by 4 different?
No, they're gonna be owned by one entity.
They're taking 4 parcels and pulling it in and making one solar farm. Or
Sure.
one, whatever.
Multiple people may own the various parcels in there, but it's one project. It's generally gonna be one project that's gonna be owned by the developer.
They may lease it or whatever,
In the land.
possibly.
It depends. I mean,
So by having, so if we, let's just say we were to stay at 200, so the state is at 50 feet.
Right.
Let's just say we stay at 200. That in essence makes the project have a bigger footprint because they have to stay further away from the setbacks, which would cause probably further encroachment on, you know, the neighbors of the non-participating parcels. So we're, you know, the 800 feet really protects the people that are not the neighbors,
Right.
okay?
Right. that
And
is-
then the participating parcel setback is really, you know, just to maintain the lot lines. But
Okay,
if we come down on that, that will give the companies more flexibility, place those inverters specifically is what we're talking about here.
right.
In a place where they're gonna be less intrusive to, you know, a resident that is not participating in that, so the neighbors.
Yeah, they're generally gonna be placed too, closer to the center of the project if they can. They don't want, the inverters, at least, they're not gonna want that, you know, near the boundary lines.
Right.
In case if there's no generator, right? They want that holding place removed.
but then
Right.
that would like the cleanup fee essentially, like, so if they kind of go out of business or whatever, then it would essentially clean up those lot lines anyhow, right?
Sure, but I mean, you could always have a company that combines the parcels and goes through that
Right.
process and stuff like that, so. I think that for a participating parcel, 50 feet is fine.
I'm good.
Yeah, yeah.
If everybody's kind of understanding like what the difference is between the two and how that would work.
Right.
And then obviously, we, at our discretion, if they decide to waive that, or ask us to waive that, we can do that. So that they can just go straight across with their panels or put the inverter in this case where it needs to go.
Okay.
But we'd be able to look at that and say, does that benefit the residents and stuff?
Right. Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Is everybody kind of on board with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then to-
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Mhm.
Seth, do you want to just take us down through the rest of them, or I marked some of the ones from that meeting.
Okay, yeah, so,
If you want to just walk us through.
that's fine, and then.
Okay.
You want me to mention what pushed this to begin with, just with the state preemption?
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, just give you a little bit of background, why we're doing this. Basically, the state of Michigan, they made the decision for us about whether or not local units would be able to regulate renewable energy, specifically solar, wind, and battery storage. So the legislation was passed, and it goes into effect November 29th. Okay, so we have some time to, to figure this out. Essentially, we were waiting until June to address this with a lot of our townships because we didn't know there was a petition circulating to see if they can get, a ballot question to repeal that legislation. My understanding is they didn't get, anywhere close to the signatures, so it's not gonna be on the November ballot. If it comes up again, it might be in 2026, but it's not gonna be in November. So what that means is we can have our solar ordinance in place, our renewable energy ordinance in place, but if the developer comes and says it's too restrictive, it's not compatible with what we want to do, they don't need to come here. And when I say here, they don't need to come to planning, they would just go straight to the state. So what I see is, at least right now, developers are willing to work with municipalities. So if you want to work with them, this is how you would do it, because if you decide not to, I think they're just gonna go to the state. And if they go to the state, they're gonna get the largest project that fits within, the parcels that they're working with. And they're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna be as flexible when it comes to, setbacks and things
Right.
like that. They're gonna go right to the line of what the state preemption says. So, I understand there's people have all sorts of feelings about the preemption litigation or legislation, but I'm just telling you how to, if you want to try to keep it here and have some, some ability to regulate it, or with developer, here rather than send it to the state, this is how you do that. This is how we're working at least with the setbacks, from what we see. The setbacks, that's gonna be the first, participating, non-participating, how far between them, lot size, and keep in mind, like, with state siting, it's, this is a permitted use in any zoning district classification. Okay, so that's not ag, it could be rural residential or, whatever comparable you have, it could be ag. So, it's just some things to be aware of. So we're developing this. If you're trying to make it somewhat attractive to a developer, you want to be able to work with them instead of just sending them to the state.
Right.
Okay?
Makes sense.
Yeah, and consumers, it's not uncommon to have a pre-application meeting with them, it happens quite a bit actually, just to get a sense of what their product is like and, hear from them. We listen to some of their, some of their points of contention, and then Mike and I sort of narrowed down what we thought might work for the planning commission, and that's what you see in the text note here. So going through it, I can start with section 1. Just the first, Article 4 of your solar ordinance, it's the subparagraph 12, okay? And what this is it's kind of safety. You go down to subparagraph B, it says, an automatic fire suppression system shall be assigned at each solar farm.
Confusing of this one.
Yeah, so if you go back to the ordinance that you have a copy of and flip over 2 pages from where we clicked for on number 8. Okay. You'll find number 12. under safety and D. The automatic fire suppression system shall be installed at each solar farm. Really kind
Well, there's
of,
a lot.
Number 12.
We're back here.
two more. One more.
What's there?
Okay, so the issue here, guys, was that it says automatic fire suppression system shall be installed at each solar farm. Well, there's kind of a conflict there, because the solar farms that have battery storage, or we need to stipulate that we have fire suppression. Just panels in the field, you don't have fire suppression. So, we need to amend the language in that paragraph to specifically designate the difference between the two. So when, where battery storage is required or present, fire suppression will be required and present.
Okay. And that's what section 1 is on
That's the one there. Mhm.
this one.
Yeah.
Think if we did that battery person thing, that we have to have the fire chief and fire people here to help with that. Really wouldn't we? Well, we're not-
So I mean so the fire suppression system will default back to, like the local building and zoning code.
Yeah.
Would be, the mechanical inspector, I'm sure would be involved, the fire chief would be involved,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
building inspector itself,
I
obviously.
don't think they would be,
Yeah.
who's happy not to be included, that's for the case.
Yeah, but that was one of the, I guess, things that needed to be clarified. We just put in there that, that does make sense, so. And in talking with the mechanical inspector, on projects where he sees the battery storage, absolutely fire suppression, a must have. If we're just talking about panels within the field, yeah, it's a non-issue, yeah. So we need to amend that paragraph, to reflect that. Sorry, Seth, I kind of jumped around just because I was doing them in the order of the ordinance, not what you had on the.
That's fine, and the question that gets brought up sometimes is that, okay, we changed the ordinance to read how it does now, at a solar farm that includes a battery storage system. So if an application comes in now and it doesn't have a battery storage system and they want to add one later, they'd have to come back for a special land use amendment and site plan. Okay, so they wouldn't just be able to add one without knowing. You could also attach a condition of approval that says, should this project, include battery storage facility, you have to come back, planning commission for special land use site plan and comply with the safety standards. So either way, you'll be able to get compliance that way.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
My general sense, guys, is that when you're dealing with these bigger entities, they understand the process a lot better than,
Reading.
your average Joe, if you will, so they know if they're gonna deviate from their site plan, they're gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
I anticipate, when we get an application from someone, it'll be the most complete site plan we've ever seen. So that is that there. And you can see in the amendment down there, it's, he's got, an automatic fire suppression system shall be installed at each solar farm that utilizes battery storage infrastructure. So we just really needed to add those three words to be specific.
Okay.
Okay? The next one is.
So, Mike, on
Go.
this next one?
Yes,
Okay, when I was looking at the text amendment here, there's actually a typo here. So when we look at what we're gonna do, is we're gonna remove a paragraph, but it looks like it was just a copy and paste from above. Okay, we're not gonna be removing D12D, because that's what we just talked about. Okay.
Yep.
What we're actually gonna be removing is, it's gonna be under paragraph 9, landscaping and buffering. Okay?
yeah, so if you guys. Flip back over. Go over one page from where you just were,
Mhm.
and you're gonna be, it's gonna be quite a ways back. we're talking about the, subparagraph B, where they were, the internal screening, Seth?
So, yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
Corey and I were just discussing that, it was landscaping and buffering. And we're looking at subparagraph is A, buffering and screening, and from what I recall, Mike, it was gonna be those evergreen trees that were 12 feet high, I think we were deleting, if I recall correctly, we were deleting that because subparagraph.
So we were not doing that. So if everybody wants to just kind of follow along with me here, you're gonna be in number. Oh, so 10 is gonna be your noise. Subparagraph B, in addition to the above limitations, a double row of evergreen trees at least 8 feet tall, spaced not less than 10 feet apart on center, must be constructed to reduce the noise level surrounding all inverters. The trees must be within 20 feet of the inverters. This requirement in addition to other requirements in section D10. So the issue was the internal screening that we had, not the actual landscape buffering screening that we had. Okay? So I just read you that paragraph. We're taking that out, because if you flip back to one page back over to in the landscaping, so that's 9 under subparagraph C, fence. The solar farm and all necessary mechanical equipment, including any structure for batteries or storage cells, shall be completely enclosed by a 6-foot high fence with a self-locking gate and provide with evergreen landscape that fits into buffer the equipment from view of the adjacent street and lot. So we have conflict there. It's a redundancy issue. So we're requiring them to put the fence around, keep the noise down, and then we're requiring them to put screening around said fence. But this is all gonna be inside the project scope. Okay, so it's
not gonna affect residents.
correct, yeah. So it's not, it does not, it's the internal screening, not the external screening along that, 300-foot or 200-foot buffer from the non-participating parcels. So the amendment, the way I understand it, Seth, that we wanted to do was we wanted to take out that subparagraph B,
That's right.
and then we're going to clean up the fencing to, we're gonna take out the evergreen landscaping that, protects that fencing from view. Because we have the requirement for the fencing around any mechanical equipment, which would be the inverters, to help with the sound. And in the pre-application meeting, they had indicated that, they have special, it's not like you throw a chain link fence, obviously. It's fencing that is specifically designed to keep sound down as far as that goes. Yep. Okay, did I explain that correctly?
Sounds right to me.
What is going to be removed?
Okay, so we're going to take out the last paragraph or last sentence of evergreen landscaping that is sufficient to buffer the equipment from the view of adjacent streets and lots. Because that can't be put within the setback anyway, okay? And then we're basically gonna flip over one page and it's gonna be 10B is gonna go away altogether.
Okay.
And that's it, Mike, right? That's the only thing that's on that paragraph that we're doing 10 feet going.
Correct, yes, that's the only one that we are gonna take out. Right, and then just to kind of follow along, because we're right on that page, if you flip back over to 10, noise.
Yeah.
That will bring you to, that's in section 4, and that is also one of the text amendments that we have listed. And we basically needed to clarify what the level of noise is. So right now it reads, the noise generated by a solar farm must not exceed the following limits. Doesn't have a limit.
Right.
In the event of a conflict between this section and section or any other section in the zoning ordinance, the more stringent regulations shall apply. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
May I motion to leave a little early for a family event?
Okay. Second, approved. We have our blessing. We appreciate you.
Okay.
stopping in.
You, nay.
Okay, so we need to clean that up to set what the actual limit is. If you go over to the text amendment page that was in your packet that the attorney's office has put together, I'll just read it for you. The sound noise generated from a solar farm shall not exceed 40 decibel at the property line of any adjacent property which contains an occupied dwelling. And given the setback requirements we have for the inverters, which is what makes the noise,
Right.
obviously,
Right,
I feel very confident that
would suffice.
will suffice, but we needed to 40,
Okay.
but we needed to be specific because what was in the ordinance is
Right.
not,
Yeah, well, yeah, we,
okay?
so,
Steph, did I explain that?
Yeah, you did, but looking at this, I'm thinking maybe there's a way we could, so the amendment is just gonna be the 10D, it's just gonna reflect exactly what you said.
Okay.
Right, cause we're looking at the amendment, the, text amendment orders that we prepared, right? It says 10D is gonna be amended in its entirety, read as follows, and then read. The sound or noise generated from a solar farm shall not exceed 40 dBA at the property line, you know, and so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
right,
So I think what we can do actually, what that means is in 10D, we're replacing that existing language with what's right here in the text amendment.
Okay,
So I think we could delete section 2 of my text amendment altogether.
okay,
Okay, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So this can replace the existing language.
Yep.
with what you see in section 4 of the text amendment.
yeah, so if you guys just flip over to the next page where we were looking at, actually in the ordinance, it's 40 decibel, you know, 50 decibel, so we're just gonna change that to a 40. And, you know, clean it up to the property line of, you know, any adjacent non-participating parcel.
Mhm.
But because that was under a different subsection already, it was not clear, and then there was conflict because it said, you know, in the event of conflict between the section or any other section within the zoning ordinance itself, not just this ordinance, this, you know, the stricter one applies, and we needed to be specific there. So that's the second of the general housekeeping that we just needed to kind of clean up, as far as that goes. Any, so I think that is it, guys. On the first, I guess, well, you know, first read of the amendment that we're gonna have. So that's all I had in my notes.
Yeah, no, that was it. I think, you know, for the planning commission now to decide what it wants to do. I think, I don't remember the regular planning commission, but I think it's at the end of June.
Yep, it is.
So, you know, the next step, if you're ready, would be to set it for a public hearing. That would just be done by a motion. And what we have here, you know, the notice reserves the right to make any further revisions at that public hearing. So it's not like you're locked in. If you think that, you know, you're going home and, you know, you want to change something up or add something, you can do that.
Okay.
Okay. Then after that, it's just, you know, hold the public hearing and make a recommendation. It goes, you know, over the county and up to the board after that point.
Okay, guys, so, just to recap on that, obviously, we're gonna get a draft to look at, which we can review to make sure that it matches up with what we just discussed.
okay,
And we can still make any, you know, minor changes to that at the public hearing.
okay,
And then obviously it's the same procedure as always. It's gonna, you know, head over to the county for a 30-day review. After our public hearing, then we go to the board for their approval with our recommendation, obviously.
I have a question.
Yes, Barb.
I just wanted to, just clarify, okay, on the signage part, since we're talking about high voltage and all that,
Mm-hmm.
should the signs have to be lit at night? Should be some kind of, I don't know, light above it or something? Or they wander at night, I guess?
Sure,
They're
I
up to-
mean, So I would think that that is an issue we could address at the time of an application with somebody. I would think that we would want to consider, you know, if we were to require a light per se. Okay, so now you're gonna have a light in the middle of the field, you know,
I know.
is that gonna be a problem
I mean,
for a resident? So I,
Just
A third,
reflective.
yeah, just a certain, not a very
Right,
bright light.
you know, I
just
mean-
something that shows, at least that the sign, maybe it has a reflective
Reflective.
plate facing on it, and that way it'll show up.
and I would think that that is certainly something that would be in the purview of us to ask and get clarification for and discuss or attach as a condition for an applicant. But I wouldn't think we would wanna just make a change in that situation, because, you know, you don't know, I mean, a resident might be upset that's not participating if we have some beacon light in the center of the field or.
Yeah, no,
whatever.
I don't, yeah, nothing that like that, nothing
Right.
that bright, just something to just make the light visible.
Like a
I
little.
mean, the
baby
sign will
light.
be visible
Now we have an office.
at night.
Right,
Yard light, probably.
Like a little reading light thing, like we, like,
You know,
like
yeah,
the freeway.
right,
where it
like
had,
like
it
flip
lit up
one
little-
of, yeah,
Yeah,
but a bigger size.
yeah,
And a little flip on, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. I don't know if we
Just-
have them out here, but the sign
Mhm.
on the freeway, it's like, it has this like little reading light that kind of illuminates. Mm-hmm.
And of course, like Claudia was saying, if the sign
It's
itself is a
reflective.
reflective
Mhm.
sign, it
gonna be
will
bright.
take very much
Mhm.
light
so I
to
mean,
just make it just pop out.
so just to answer your question there, I mean, you take a look at the signage, it says located at the roadside, easily visible throughout all 4 seasons, you
Yeah.
know, I mean. That's something that can be taken care of at the time of an application, you know, if we determine that there needs to be more than there, we just attach it as a condition. I don't think we can compel them to have, because the signs are all gonna be roadside, you know, we're talking about an internal issue.
Okay,
And then, you know,
just wanted to bring it up.
okay, yeah, no,
No
I
big
mean,
deal.
I definitely see what you're saying. Any other questions on the process per se,
No.
guys?
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, I would like to motion for us to set the public hearing for our June 25th regular scheduled meeting down here at the Township Hall at 6 PM to review the final text amendments to this solar energy systems ordinance.
We have to come in what you just said, if we.
Well, I motioned, I need a second.
Well, not coming on that. That was wordy.
Barb. So the motion will be to set the public hearing for our next regularly scheduled meeting, June 25th, here at the Township Hall at 6 PM
From the text amendment.
on the text amendments for the solar energy systems.
I will get it over tomorrow to the clerk and the deputy clerk.
Okay. Yep.
Because we gotta get it 15 days before, we're gonna be close on that.
We will be close, yeah. I mean, a little bit of
Do you have
time.
a publication timeline?
Yes, I do. So if we're gonna do the shopper, it's gotta be Tuesday by 4 o'clock.
Okay, so if I get it tomorrow, it'll publish what day?
It'll publish this coming Thursday. Yep. Okay. Next item on the agenda is open public comment time. Can be on anything you want. We'll open that at 6:40. We have no public comment, so we'll close that at 6:40. Next item on the agenda is gonna be the planning commission member time. Claudia,
I have nothing, sir, for you.
Barb,
No, thank you.
Shirley,
Nothing.
Kevin?
On that one. Yeah, on the housekeeping, did you want another change to the, from road commission to,
We can do that at the public hearing if you want.
okay, that'll work?
Anything else?
No.
Tony?
Nope.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for rearranging their schedules and kind of coming in with me for a special meeting. Very basic, we would not have done one otherwise, but you know, time frame wise, we wanted to make sure that, we had this handled before we had an application and, you know,
Right, when it's done, it's off the
It's
list.
done and it's off the
Go,
list, yep.
move forward with something
Exactly.
else.
That being said, thank you, everybody, and I will move to adjourn the meeting at 6:41. Our next meeting is June 25th at 6 p.m. All right, thank you.